I am Eleanor, 35, and I still remember the precise way the candlelight flickered across my mother's face, illuminating every sharp angle, every hint of a practiced smile that never quite reached her eyes. It was her 70th birthday dinner, an evening I had meticulously orchestrated, hoping against all odds that this time, just this once, I would finally be enough. But then, she raised her crystal glass, and in a voice as cold and clear as ice, she delivered her birthday wish, aimed directly at me. The most wonderful gift I could ever receive, Eleanor, is the serenity that comes from you finally leaving my life. So I did. The next morning, a strange calm settled. I packed what truly mattered, sold my restored Victorian home, discreetly froze her joint accounts, and vanished, leaving only the echo of her words and shattered pieces of my past. This is my story. Before I dive into my story, I'd really appreciate it if you could let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and if you'd consider subscribing to my channel. It would mean the world to me and help me keep sharing more stories like this. Thank you so much for being here. Growing up in Willow Creek, our lives looked perfect. Our stately brick house was the envy of the community. But inside, I learned nothing I did measured up to my mother, Beatrice Hayes's impossibly high standards. Beatrice was a formidable figure, pristine in public, but her practiced smile never reached her icy eyes. Eleanor, posture, darling. A lady never slouches, not even at 6. She'd chide, "That dress makes you look rather shapeless. Eleanor, go change." Or the dreaded comparison. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" Penelope straight as once again. Naturally. My father, Arthur, a kind history professor, was my shield. He'd slip into my room after Beatrice's barbs, his eyes sad, whispering, "Your mother just wants the best for you, sweetheart." But his gaze betrayed her cruelty. He attended my plays and displayed my architectural sketches Beatrice dismissed. When I was 16, father, my anchor, died unexpectedly that day. I saw mother truly weep for the only time. After that, any warmth vanished with him. The criticism, once partially deflected, now struck me full force. "You're gaining weight, Eleanor. No respectable man will want an architect who can't manage her own figure," she'd remark at dinner, scrutinizing every bite. Penelope, the golden child, had escaped to New York, rarely returning. Beatrice constantly boasted of Penelope's triumphs. "Penelope just curated a groundbreaking exhibit in Soho," or "Penelope is taking us to the Greek Isles this summer." Despite a scholarship to a prestigious California architecture program, I chose the State University 30 minutes from home. Beatrice had dizzy spells, and though doctors found nothing, I couldn't leave her alone after father's death. So, I stayed, shelving my dreams for a misplaced sense of duty. After college, I took a job at a local architectural firm. The modest pay and short commute meant I could check on Beatrice during lunch and rush to her side when she needed something. I bought a bungalow 3 blocks from her estate, close enough to be available, but far enough for some independence. Years passed in a blur of my mother's demands. My occasional dates never lasted. Beatrice found fault with every man, or her constant needs limited my availability. "Eleanor, can you collect my dry cleaning? My back is simply awful today." "Eleanor, the gutters on the West Wing need clearing, and you know I can't afford to hire someone on my modest income," she'd lament, ignoring father's substantial investment portfolio. By my 30th birthday, I was senior architect, but even that was dismissed. Senior architect at a local firm. Eleanor, hardly the same as a partner in a major metropolitan practice. Is it? 2 years ago, Beatrice had legitimate health issues. Arthritis made navigating her grand staircase painful. Doctors recommended single-level living, but she refused to leave father's house. I intensified my visits, becoming her personal shopper, housekeeper, and chauffeur. I even converted my home office to a temporary bedroom for her during a brutal flare-up last winter. I remember working from my kitchen table, responding to her incessant calls from the next room. Penelope visited twice a year at most, always staying at a hotel during these visits. Beatrice transformed. Complaints vanished, criticism disappeared, replaced by effusive pride in Penelope's children and detailed discussions about her work. I became invisible, serving coffee and clearing dishes while they reminisced about family vacations I was too young to remember. Despite the emotional attrition, I clung to a desperate yearning for my mother's approval. Each Mother's Day, birthday, and Christmas, I meticulously chose gifts. A cashmere scarf was returned. The color simply washes me out. Concert tickets went unused. Who has time for such trifles at my age? A spa retreat was declined. I'd much rather Penelope came to visit. This year, I vowed, would be different. For Beatrice's 70th birthday, I planned something exquisitely perfect. Weeks were spent arranging a private dinner at the Gilded Lily, Willow Creek's most prestigious restaurant. I invited her closest friends, ordered a bespoke cake from Penelope's wedding patisserie, and spent nearly $3,000 my savings for an advanced architecture course on a rare Art Deco sapphire and diamond brooch she'd admired. It was similar to her own mother's cherished, lost piece. I believed this would finally earn her genuine appreciation. The week before, I begged Penelope to come. It would mean so much to Mom, I pleaded, omitting my own need for support. To my surprise, Penelope agreed as the day neared. I felt a peculiar blend of hope and anxiety. A lifetime of experience braced me for disappointment. Yet a stubborn part of me believed this time I might finally be enough. The morning of Beatrice's 70th birthday began with passive-aggressive texts. Eleanor, I hope you reminded the Gilded Lily about my shellfish allergy. I had confirmed it 4 times. What time are Penelope and Leo arriving? Should I send my driver? They were driving directly. I trust you didn't go overboard. You know, I prefer simple celebrations. The guest list was intimate. As she requested, I spent the morning at the salon, choosing a conservative navy silk dress, minimal makeup, and my father's pearl earrings. I practiced a hopeful smile, determined nothing would tarnish the evening. At 5:30 p.m., I arrived at Beatrice's house. She opened the door in her dressing gown. Mother, we leave in 15 minutes, I said. I cannot possibly be ready in 15 minutes. Eleanor, you know I take time with my appearance. Unlike some people. Her eyes swept over me with disapproval. The reservation is for 6:15, Mother. I told you last week. Well, they'll simply have to wait. Penelope just called and said they're running late. 2. My heart sank. Penelope hadn't mentioned a delay. All right, I'll call them. Can I help? You can make yourself useful and steam my emerald gown. I bit back the observation that we'd be matching. By 6:30, Beatrice was flawless. I had pushed back the reservation twice. We arrived just before 7:00 p.m. Penelope and Leo were there, along with most guests, waiting for over 45 minutes. Finally, Mother, Penelope exclaimed, hugging Beatrice. We thought you might have forgotten your own birthday dinner. Beatrice chuckled, a warm sound rarely directed at me. Eleanor was running late as usual. Darling, you know how she is with time. I swallowed the bitter correction. This evening was about her happiness. The maitre d' led us to the private dining room. Crystal goblets sparkled, and arrangements of white lilies and blue hydrangeas adorned the table. Place cards marked each seat, Beatrice at the head, Penelope and Leo to her right, me to her left. This is absolutely divine. Eleanor, Mrs. Albright murmured. You've thought of every detail. Beatrice made a non-committal sound. The flowers are a bit ostentatious, and lilies in a dining room. Eleanor, the scent will overpower the food. Mrs. Albright gave me a sympathetic glance. I think they're perfect. Beatrice, Eleanor knows how much you adore lilies. Dinner proceeded with an undercurrent of tension only I seemed to feel. Guests chatted amiably. Penelope regaled the table with gallery acquisitions. Leo discussed his children's school. Beatrice beamed when I tried to join with an anecdote about a successful architectural renovation. Beatrice interrupted. Eleanor, darling, could you possibly ask the waiter for more sparkling water? My glass is quite empty. After the main course, the server wheeled in the spectacular lemon poppy seed cake with elderflower buttercream, my mother's favorite. As it was placed before her, candles glowing, I reached for the velvet-wrapped box. A speech? Called Doctor. Sterling. Beatrice, you can't turn 70 without sharing some wisdom. My mother smiled, lifting her wine glass. Well, I'm not one for lengthy monologues, but I do want to thank you all for gracing my celebration. Life has bestowed many blessings. She paused, gazing at Penelope, Leo, and her grandchildren. My wonderful daughter, Penelope, who fills me with pride every single day. She squeezed Penelope's hand, my accomplished son-in-law, Leo, and my beautiful, brilliant grandchildren. She sipped wine, her eyes scanning the room, landing on me. And Eleanor, of course, always present. Uncomfortable chuckles rippled through the group. As I look towards the future, she continued, her voice gaining an unsettling edge, I find myself contemplating what would truly bring me happiness. They say at 70, one should focus on removing stresses and surrounding oneself purely with joy. Her gaze bored into me, her smile tightening. So, if I could have one birthday wish, one perfect ultimate gift, it would be this, Eleanor. I wish you would finally leave my life and grant me some genuine peace in my remaining years. The dining room fell into deafening silence. Water glasses froze, forks hovered. A dozen pairs of eyes shifted to me, then quickly looked away. Mother? Penelope murmured, offering no more. What? Beatrice's tone was defensive. I'm merely being honest. Isn't that what everyone advises at my age? Speak your truth. She turned back to me, her voice hardening. Eleanor, you have hovered over me for decades, always meddling. I cannot breathe with you just 3 blocks away. I sat perfectly still. The gift box clutched so tightly my fingers went numb. Voices faded into a distant hum. Excuse me, I managed, standing on disconnected legs. I just need some air. No one stopped me as I walked out, through the hushed restaurant, into the cool night. I heard Penelope call my name once, but I didn't turn. In my car, I placed the gift box on the passenger seat, staring blankly. The first hot tears splashed, and I realized I was crying. Silent tears, from a deep reservoir of suppressed pain. Years of seeking approval, making myself smaller, rearranging my life around a woman who had publicly stated she wanted me gone. I started the car, driving home in a strange calm. Inside my deserted house, I stared at my reflection. I barely recognized the haunted woman. Somewhere, I had disappeared long before her wish. She wants me gone, I whispered. Maybe it's time I finally granted her wish. I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen island, researching, compiling lists, thinking with a clarity born of desolation. By morning, I had a plan. I called in sick, then made an appointment with Margaret Finch, an attorney, at 9:30 a.m. in her minimalist office. I detailed years of abuse, culminating in the public humiliation. I want to disappear, start over somewhere new. What are the legal implications? Margaret studied me. Eleanor, this is profound. Are you sure you wouldn't benefit from cooling off time? What your mother said was cruel, but severing ties is extreme. I've had 35 years of cooling off time, I replied, my voice devoid of emotion. 35 years of trying to earn a love that was never given. I'm done, she nodded. Disappearing, as an adult, is not illegal, provided you aren't evading debt or charges. You have every right to relocate. She referred me to Dr. Marcus Thorne, a financial planner specializing in estate management. Before I left, Margaret gave me her card. If you reconsider, or if anything else arises, please call, and Eleanor, whatever you decide. I sincerely hope you find the peace you deserve. Marcus Thorne's office was downtown. He offered pragmatic advice. Joint accounts are a concern, he stated, reviewing my financials. You have 2 accounts with your mother as co-owner. Either can withdraw the full amount. Emptying them could be construed as financial exploitation, given her age and recent statements. Those accounts were for her care. I explained, tight with grievance. Father left instructions for medical needs and home maintenance for years. I've been the sole contributor of additional funds, while she treats them as personal spending. Marcus made notes. In that case, I recommend freezing, not emptying, the accounts. We can establish an irrevocable trust with specific disbursement conditions. This protects assets for their intended purpose, removing her direct access. Over the next few days, I set my plan in motion with unnerving precision. I contacted a real estate investment company for a quick cash offer. My bungalow, worth more, was sold within 7 days. I visited 3 banks in neighboring towns, closing old accounts and opening new ones under my legal name, with a discreet P.O. box as a temporary address. These would bridge until I established residency elsewhere. I resigned from my architectural firm, citing family reasons for immediate relocation. 13 years ended with a brief conversation and a promise to email my formal letter. The most challenging task was deciding what to take. I had accumulated possessions of a 35-year-old professional, but little felt essential to who I was or who I wanted to become. I sorted into 4 categories: sell, donate, store, and take. The take pile was surprisingly small. A few jeans, hiking boots, my laptop and sketching tablet, poetry books, grandmother's quilt, and a small photo album. Mostly of father. Everything else, I realized, could be replaced. A week after the birthday dinner, Mother hadn't called. Penelope had called twice and sent frantic texts, but I responded only with brief assurances of being fine and needing space. She didn't press, likely assuming it was a temporary cooling-off period. She had no idea that normal no longer existed for me. The day before closing, I took a final walk through my neighborhood, the tree-lined streets where I'd built my adult life, the park, the coffee shop where baristas knew my order. I paused outside Beatrice's estate, looking up at the dormer windows. So many memories were entombed there, few happy. I didn't go inside or attempt to see her. There was nothing left to say. That evening, I finalized the trust with Marcus Thorne. The joint accounts would be frozen, then transferred into an irrevocable trust for Beatrice's medical care, home maintenance, and essential expenses. The independent trustee would approve expenditures based on documented need. Beatrice would maintain her lifestyle, but without freedom to capriciously use funds. I prepared a detailed letter for Penelope, entrusting it to Marcus for delivery 1 week after my departure. It explained the accounts, provided trustee contact, and included financial records demonstrating my contributions to Beatrice's care. I pointedly did not include new contact information or destination. "Are you absolutely certain?" Marcus asked, as I signed the final documents. "Once this is set, it will be exceptionally difficult to undo." I thought of Mother's words. "The best gift would be if you left my life." "I am certain," I stated. "She asked for this gift, and I am giving it to her." On my final night, I slept on a camping mattress in the empty master bedroom. In the morning, I would sign the closing documents, hand over the keys, and drive away from the only town I had ever called home. I had one last symbolic task. I retrieved the velvet-wrapped box with the vintage Art Deco brooch. I had carried it since that night, unsure what to do. Now, I knew. I placed it in a padded envelope with a terse note. "You asked for a different gift, so I am returning this one. May you find the peace you are looking for. Goodbye." I addressed it to Beatrice, added postage, and put it in my bag to mail from the first post office outside Willow Creek. Then, I closed my eyes, counting hours until I would be free. The morning of my departure dawned bright. I signed documents at 8:00 a.m., accepted the cashier's check, and mailed the package from the Main Street post office. By 9:30 a.m., my car was pointed west on Interstate 90 Willow Creek, receding in my rearview mirror until it vanished. I had no specific destination, only a direction. West felt right, moving away from past shadows towards something new. Marcus Thorne advised 3 weeks to establish residency. After that, financial ties would complicate. That first day brought a flood of emotions, exhilarating freedom, quiet anxiety, fleeting doubt, then fierce resolve. By nightfall, I was in Ohio at a nondescript motel on the bed. I created a new untraceable email, unconnected to my past. I used it to set up new phone and online accounts. My old phone remained on, silenced in the glove compartment, to monitor urgent situations. Days blurred into highways, state lines, and changing landscapes. I avoided major cities, preferring anonymity of small towns and secondary roads. I paid mostly cash, using my new credit card only when essential, leaving minimal digital footprints. By the sixth day, I reached the Pacific Northwest. The emerald forests and rugged coastline called to me. I slowed down, took scenic routes, stayed extra nights in quiet coastal towns. In Starfall Bay, I found a profound peace I hadn't experienced in years. Starfall Bay was small enough to be overlooked, but offered essentials: a grocery store, medical clinic, shops, cafes. The real estate office had a listing for a charming cottage overlooking the bay, month-to-month lease, furnished, available immediately. It felt like a sign. The cottage was perfect in its imperfections: weathered siding, a tilted porch, sticky windows, but it boasted water views from every room and a privacy unimaginable after years of being at Beatrice's beck and call. I signed the lease as Alara Davies, my middle name with my childhood street. "What brings you to Starfall Bay?" Miss Davies, Mrs. Sterling, the property manager, asked. "A change of scenery," I replied. "I'm a freelance architect. I can work from anywhere." This was my cover story, believable with enough truth. I'd set up a Lara Davies Designs website and secured remote projects, enough to establish work history and supplement savings. My first week in Starfall Bay passed in a purposeful haze, setting up utilities, buying necessities, finding the best coffee. That was Coastal Grounds, run by Diane, a woman in her late 50s with salt and pepper hair and a weathered, kind face. She remembered my order after 2 visits and never pushed conversation. "You're new in town," she observed on my 5th visit. "Is it that obvious?" I asked. "Starfall Bay is where everyone knows everyone. A new face stands out. But don't worry, we respect privacy. Lots of folks come to the coast to start over. No one's going to ask for your life story." Her matter-of-fact tone made me relax. "Thanks, I'm just looking for some quiet." She nodded. "Well, you found the right place. Though, I should warn you, our annual community seafood festival is next weekend. It gets downright rowdy. Some people even stay out past 9 o'clock. Her deadpan delivery made me genuinely smile for the first time in weeks. Back at the cottage, I checked my old email and phone. Penelope sent increasingly desperate messages. "Eleanor, Mom is telling everyone you abandoned her. What happened after you left the restaurant? Please call me." My work email contained inquiries about my departure and resignation acceptance. The local paper had a small item on my house sale, but an article on the Willow Creek Community News website jolted me. "Local matriarch abandoned by daughter after decades of support." The piece quoted Beatrice, claiming I emptied our joint accounts and vanished after a minor disagreement. The manipulation was transparent. A minor disagreement. She publicly wished for me to leave her life. I hadn't emptied accounts. I'd frozen them for her care. I slammed my laptop shut, hands shaking with anger. Hundreds of miles away, she still controlled the narrative, casting herself as victim. I wondered how long until she discovered the accounts were frozen, not emptied, and what new story she'd spin. That evening, on my porch, watching the sunset over Starfall Bay, I allowed myself to fully feel everything suppressed for 2 weeks, the searing hurt of rejection. Grief for the mother I never had. Familiar guilt, but beneath. Something new surfaced: relief. Freedom. The exhilarating realization that I lived on my own terms. I'd feared disappearing meant loss of identity. Instead, I rediscovered buried pieces of myself. As darkness fell, I made a promise I'd give this new life, this Alara Davies, a fair chance, one day at a time, one choice at a time. I'd build something authentic, intrinsically mine. Exactly 1 week later, my old phone rang, silent for days except for texts, which I checked periodically. The screen showed Penelope's name. I let it go to voicemail. This time, she left a message that made my heart race. Eleanor, please call me back immediately. Mom is in the hospital. She had some kind of heart episode last night. Doctors say it's not serious, but she's incredibly upset about everything. She can't access her accounts and her bills are piling up. Whatever happened, please, she needs you right now. We all do. I played it, hot twist deciphering unspoken truths. A heart episode. Not serious, yet hospitalizing, bills piling up. Despite the trust, my first instinct was to call back, book a flight. The programming ran deep, responsibility automatic, but I forced myself to pause, to breathe, to think. I opened my laptop, logging into my old email. Several new messages from Penelope, increasingly frantic. One from Mrs. Albright, expressing concern about my sudden departure. 3 from unrecognized local numbers. I opened Penelope's most recent email first. It contained a stark photo of Beatrice in a hospital bed, looking frail and older. The message, "She's asking for you. Eleanor, please." Whatever she said. She didn't mean for this to happen. Just come back. The local emails were from a Willow Creek Gazette reporter, seeking comment on allegations of elder financial abuse. Beatrice had taken her story to local media. A quick search brought up a public fundraising page. Help Beatrice Hayes after daughter's cruel abandonment. The page, created by someone from the Historical Society, painted a harrowing picture I'd emptied joint accounts and vanished, leaving my elderly ailing mother without funds. It had raised over $3,000. My hands trembled as I navigated to the Willow Creek Community Facebook page. There she was, Beatrice, in curated photos stoically receiving flowers, tearfully looking at a "Get Well Soon" card from Penelope's children, being comforted by friends. Comments raged. How could her own daughter do this after everything Beatrice did for her? Some people have no sense of family duty. Disgraceful. Nausea washed over me. The narrative was completely controlled by Beatrice, with no one to offer the other side, not even Penelope, who witnessed years of abuse but maintained careful neutrality. I was about to slam the laptop shut when a new notification popped up, a direct message on my professional social media account, which I had forgotten to deactivate. It was from Dr. Evelyn Reed, Beatrice's primary care physician, Eleanor. The message began, "I hope this reaches you. I cannot share specific patient information, but